Welcome into K-State Online. I'm Mason Voth. That is Drew Galloway. And on a Friday, we get to bring you good news because Thursday evening, K-State picked up their first commitment out of the transfer portal for this portal cycle. And it's a guy that we talked about yesterday and probably gave some heavy hints that something good might be coming. But that would be one Jayden Rowe, he was at Oklahoma the last couple of years, didn't really log any time on the field in a significant way, but highly thought of coming out of school, was a four-star recruit. Obviously, the size, I think, is one of the top things that people look at for a corner at 6'3". And really, I mean, there were people on our board like, is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? And everybody's like, I don't know, he's a corner. So it's going to be fascinating to see how he kind of translates into what K-State does. But we talked about this a lot, Drew. This is one of those where this is where K-State should try to live when it comes to the portal, is mix in a good dose of these guys that are trying to bounce back from going to a big-time school that they had high thoughts coming out of high school as a top recruit, didn't work out for whatever reason. See if you can take that talent, because some of these guys it won't ever work out, but there were athletic traits that led to Jayden Rowe having the stars next to his name in high school. So that player is still there. You just have to be able to put him in a system that kind of draws it out of him.
Yeah, you need kind of like a mixture of guys that are going to be like really good right now and guys that probably haven't all put it together yet and kind of just working on that. And Jayden Rowe is the highly rated guy that it really hasn't worked out for him yet due to injury. And then I think a little bit probably had to do with scheme, because from what I have gathered from Oklahoma is that they didn't really have a good plan for him. Like, there was a time where he was going to be a corner, then they really wanted to beef him up and be a linebacker. I imagine he's going to be a corner at K-State. And he has the same traits and measurables as Julius Brents. I mean, if we're being completely honest, like that 6'2", can really, really run. Rowe is a tremendous high school track athlete, as I pointed out yesterday, running a 10.3 100 and almost a sub 21 200 at his size is ridiculous. But he's a guy that if he puts it all together, this is the perfect lottery ticket that you take. In a world where you have 105 players now, and this is a guy that probably isn't commanding a whole lot of NIL because he hasn't played a ton at Oklahoma. You needed 2 or 3 corners to begin with. Why not take one or two guys that have really proven that they can play no matter at what level, and then take a guy that's just a lottery ticket? And, I think somebody said on the board, all it takes is one penny stock to hit, and you really hit the jackpot. And Jayden Rowe right now, they're buying low because he has these amazing traits. And if he puts it together, awesome. Like, he's probably an NFL guy. If he doesn't, this is the type of risk and gamble that with 105 players on a roster, I would like to see K-State take 2 or 3 of these guys. And really, Gabe Powers is another one that hasn't really put it all together yet, but was even ranked higher than Jayden Rowe out of high school. That if you're going to take these gambles, why not go for some of these guys that were elite high school recruits?
Yeah, it just makes sense. And you're absolutely right, because the type of impact that guys like this could have, it goes a long way to where if you take in 4 guys like this in a portal cycle and only one of them hits, then, like, in theory, that's going to be a pretty game-changing player for you. And not to kind of, oversell things, but K-State kind of needs that out of a guy like Jayden Rowe, considering what they're looking at next year, where Keenan Garber will be gone, but he was struggling this season anyways. Jacob Parrish is going to enter the NFL draft. Justice James is returning, but that he was thought to be more of a depth piece at the start of the season. And then by year's end, he was your second best corner. You need somebody to come in and command that top spot, because as we know, the Big 12 finds receivers no matter the circumstance or year. Like, everybody obviously knew it as a receiver league 12 years ago, or even more than that, I guess now, when you still had 12 teams in this league, and it was the original Big 12. And then it was still that even down the road. Like, the Big 12 has not stopped finding receivers. Iowa State just had two of the best in the league. Tetero and McMillan came into the Big 12. You think about like TCU, Jack Best just all of a sudden, boom, he's one of the best in the league. Like
Jordan Tyson.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be able to step up. KU had a trio of guys that would scare you on the outside. So you need to be able to have guys that can fill that spot for you. And Jayden Rowe, obviously, you would think with the size and everything else, that gives you a lot of options there. Now, let's look at the other side of this, though, and say this was a highly touted guy coming out of high school, didn't really do anything at Oklahoma. What's the backstory there, and what ends up needing to be the fix for K-State to make Jayden Rowe a serviceable player on the field?
Yeah, as simple as it sounds, the fix is to just make sure that he doesn't get injured, because he's been plagued by injuries, I believe, the last 2 seasons. In 2023, he had a season-ending injury, and then it kind of lingered a little bit into this past season. So really staying healthy is what he needs to be doing and what K-State needs to do. But I think that this scheme that K-State runs is very, very good for defensive backs. I mean, we've seen a lot of quality transfers come in and out and have gone to the NFL. So we're going to see what they can do, because the potential is really there. And being banged up, he had a shoulder injury and some concussions, and then had a season-ending injury in 2023. So if he can really put it together and stay healthy and stay on the field, I think that that's something where the sky is the limit, and his best football is likely in front of him. A Jayden Rowe fun fact for you is way back when in 2022, DY and I actually saw Jayden Rowe play in high school. He happened to be playing Jake Clifton's high school team. And then we just happened to see Jayden Rowe there, and he was really impressive there too. So it's a guy that K-State has had familiarity with, because K-State was actually one of the first teams to offer Jayden Rowe a scholarship out of high school. And then because of that, they worked that angle and that advantage of knowing him prior to be able to get this done really, really quickly. Because, I mean, you look at it, Rowe visited on Tuesday. Or Wednesday, sorry. And the portal opened on Monday. Wasn't believed they took any other visits. We didn't really know anything about him taking a visit to K-State until he posted something on a Snapchat story and somebody saw it. And then by that time, the deal was done. So, I mean, you look at it, and having the prior relationship, I think when you're taking a gamble like this, really helps.
Yeah, I think that goes a long way too, because you want guys to come in, and the quicker they're comfortable, the better chance you have of whatever you're trying to turn them into actually clicking and working for them and making it happen. So I think you're right about that. Where ultimately do you see this going? Is Jayden Rowe a day one starter next year when K-State's playing Iowa State and Ireland?
I wouldn't say that he's a day one starter. I need to see it before I really think and know that he could be a day one kind of starter guy. But this is a guy that if he is your like corner 4 or corner 5, and you're probably doing something right, because that means that younger guys are probably coming along. It means that you probably got better corners in the portal. So if he's a good like 3rd or 4th corner to start the season, and then gets more and more playing time as the year goes on, I think that was well worth the risk, because we talk about transfers. Some guys are the low ceiling but really high floor. Some guys are the high ceiling, low floor. Some guys just have a really high ceiling because they had such a high floor to begin with too. Jayden Rowe is probably a guy that is probably on the lower floor but really high ceiling. So he's probably going to be somewhere in that in between of being a starter, or like I said yesterday, there is a world out there where he stays healthy and has a really good season or 2 and ends up being an NFL draft pick, because there are guys that don't move, that aren't the guys that are his size don't really move as quick as he does. And the track measurables, the speed, the size, the length. I mean, we saw Julius Brents get drafted in the 2nd round because of how tall and how long he was and how well he ran and tested. Jayden Rowe is going to be in that same category if he gets it all together.
We'll see. It's up to the K-State staff to make sure that it does all kind of come together for how this ends up working out. But you're right. It worked out when they were making the move with Julius Brents, and now you see how that will kind of roll along there. And look, Julius Brents was a guy that coming out of high school wasn't like anything special or highly thought of. He was just a regular 3-star that ended up working out into a really good corner for K-State, obviously.
And Brents didn't have a ton of playing time at Iowa either before he transferred into K-State. I think that he primarily just played special teams.
Yeah, I have to go back and look, but I know you're right on that. I was going to go see the exact just how much playing time he got. I mean, yeah, not a ton in his 3 seasons there. He played a little bit in 2018 and then a little bit in 2020, but it wasn't a lot. So it is one of those things that I think K-State's going to have to hope that that's the same path here, and obviously you can find guys like that. Brent's played in 5 games as a freshman, and then only 2 games in the 2020 season. So yeah, he had 7 games in 3 years at Iowa, and then came to K-State and instantly was making an impact in 2021. And obviously 2022 turned out to be pretty successful for him. Before we get out of here, we talked a little bit about Jayden Rowe there, but there is some other K-State portal news to update you on just as we got going here. Keagan Johnson made it official. He has entered the transfer portal. That is the 15th player for the Wildcats to be in the portal. Obviously, the one commitment we just talked about. What do you make of Keagan Johnson exiting the program after a couple seasons?
This one for K-State probably stings the most among Trace Bivey and Carver Willis, but also isn't like an insurmountable, like irreplaceable kind of transfer out either. Keagan Johnson has been dealing with injuries the last 2 seasons. Wasn't super productive. Was probably their best blocker on the outside, and that's probably going to be the biggest problem. Is now you're going to have to find better blockers, but the receivers as a whole and the tight ends have to get much better at blocking in space in general. So I don't see that being like a huge loss, because that's something that across the board they have to get better at. But it probably stings the most. But like I said, not like the sky is falling.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like Keagan Johnson, you would like to have around if afforded the opportunity. But kind of what we talked about, it was 2 years here. There were some expectations. He never really showed it on the field. Well, I thought this season was better. And I don't know that like his play should have deserved criticism this year by anybody, because I think he played well enough. It just wasn't ever as dynamic as I think some wanted it to be, or it was kind of made out to be when he first arrived. And now you look at this situation where what really is the best case scenario for Keagan Johnson on this team next year. And it's probably not one that for a guy that's going into playing, what his 4th or 5th season of college football really looks at and says, yeah, that sounds like fun for me. I mean, we were talking beforehand and somebody threw out, he's like, well, he's the perfect kind of like wide receiver 4. It's like, yeah, but if Keagan Johnson is willingly staying to be the wide receiver 4 at K-State, to me, that's not actually a guy that you want to stay around, because it shows that he's perfectly content with not reaching a next level. And so I'm with you totally here. I think this is best for both parties. They probably got a little bit of what they wanted out of it initially, but in the big picture, it just didn't fully work out the way it was anticipated. So Keagan Johnson is gone, and that is portal entry number 15. A couple of guys have already committed for K-State that had gone in the portal. Carver Willis, it seemed like it was trending towards maybe going to be an SEC school, but then yesterday, just kind of out of nowhere, he's going to Washington now, so he's going to go play tackle in the Big Ten, and then Donovan Ryman going to end up at Louisiana Tech, it appears.
Yeah. So I mean, Carver Willis and Keagan, I think, are kind of on that same boat when you look at like biggest losses for K-State. Of both of those guys, you'd probably want to have back in an ideal world, but at the same time, probably better for both parties to just move on. And especially in this era of going to the 105 roster limit, you probably want to have some guys that you could have brought back, but probably better for both of you if you just move on. And, and in an ideal situation, I think for K-State, it would be Keagan Johnson being the receiver for, and I think that's part of the reason why he is departing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That will clean things up on the portal for Friday. And we'll be back again on Monday, I'm sure, with more. Do you have expectations for any big portal bombs over the weekend, Drew, to where we're doing something on Saturday or Sunday?
The only thing that I would say, and this isn't even like I think that he's going to commit to K-State because I'm not really sure what he is thinking right now. But Jack Tanner, I believe, is done with visits and is going to be committing soon after coming to Manhattan. It'll be between K-State, KU, and Northwestern.
All right. Well, we'll see how that ends up working out. Obviously, K-State has some holes that they definitely want to start to plug up. And they made that start yesterday with the addition of Jayden Rowe at corner. Reminder for everybody that the best place to get instant analysis and updates on K-State football and basketball is over at On3 and K-StateOnline.com. In addition to that, DY doing a nice thing right now, trying to kind of track how this roster is going to get down to 105 because that is the roster limit that is incoming next season in college football. So the old, hey, you got this many scholarships. Well, everybody can be on scholarship now. They won't be, but they could be. But no team can have more than 105 players on their roster. As of the last update from DY, this was around 5 o'clock yesterday, so it's already jostled back and forth with the Rowe edition and then the Keagan Johnson stuff. But they're right around 117 players. So there's still a number of cuts that need to happen or guys to depart the program. And it's a really tough decision that a lot of these coaches are trying to make. So I don't know. Maybe the coaches need to get him a gift for the holiday season, Drew.
Yeah, it is a tough world out there because I mean you're in that 105 roster limit, and there are some tough cuts that have to be made. And the hardest part, like I've said, is that 105. Yeah, that sounds great, but you probably want to add guys to your roster too. So you probably want to be at like 97, 96, so you can start adding guys. So I don't envy coaches in a lot of situations, but especially right now, because you're not only having guys transfer out, but you're also having to tell some guys that like we just don't have space for you, and then on top of that, you're also trying to bring guys in. So I don't envy them at this moment.
Yeah, it's brutal that they're having to do this. And then I mean, we talked about the different impacts that it has on certain guys, but you think about like the walk-ons, they're in a really tough spot in all of this. That it just doesn't feel like it should be warranted that way, especially when you consider like how many of the walk-ons are guys that, I mean, most of the walk-ons end up being dudes that wanted to play football at K-State growing up. Like they're in-state kids that wanted to be there, and now you have to basically be told, hey, we just don't have a spot for you. And then you think about like, well, they probably don't want to be done playing football. They just spent time in a Big 12 program. Now, what are the prospects for them to go elsewhere? And it's all just a mess. And one of those things that long-term is good, I think, for the sport, but how you have to get to that point instantly and right now is really, really bad for the coaches and the players involved. But that's something that can be dissected a little bit more on another day. The holiday gift I was alluding to, Drew, though, is that Chris Kleinman should tell any of the players that he says, hey, you can't be here anymore, that if they still want to see K-State play, they're not going to be able to do it from the sidelines, but they could do it from the seats over in Ireland next year. Because, hey, Keagan Johnson, you're not going to be here anymore. You still want to go watch us play in Ireland? Go to cats2ireland.com. That'd be what I would be telling guys if I was booting them off the team. And you can give the gift of Ireland this holiday season, whether it's to somebody that you care about in your family or it's somebody that you would like to kick out of your family and say, hey, roster limits, weird uncle, I'm sorry, get out of here. You're not invited to Christmas this year. But I did secure you tickets and a hospitality package through Aer Lingus. The Wildcats are going to kick off the 2025 season in the Aer Lingus College Football Classic in Dublin, Ireland. And you can visit cats2ireland.com for more information. That's cats, the number 2, Ireland.com. Don't kick anybody out of your family unless they're, they are problems. You can kick them out then. But yeah, don't kick out anybody that deserves to be there.
My Ireland fun fact for you today is that my wife is learning Irish before we go there.
Don't they speak English over there?
Well, they also speak Irish. We got some Duolingo action going on, so we'll be able to speak to you in Irish if you want.
So what do you know? Can you say anything for us? What's the
I can't say anything for you, but I'm sure that she could.
Okay. Well, Monday, you're tasked with at least bringing us some of the verbiage that comes with being speaking Irish or whatever. It might be because I just assumed that English was their language over there. I've seen enough golfers on the PGA Tour from Ireland that they still speak English, so I guess I'm confused.
They speak both.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know, I guess. And I won't be insensitive by the time we get over there because I'll know that they speak more than English. This was a good fact for me. I'm kind of blown away by it. I don't know that I fully believe it. And let's see.
Their official languages are English and Gaelic, which is Irish.
Okay. All right. Well, it looks like that's like 2% of their population is live in the regions where it's still spoken. So if you end up getting lost on your way to the stadium next year before the game, your wife will be able to translate for everybody and get directions. That is a great fact. That's a great way to end the show today. For Drew Galloway, I'm Mason Voth. Thanks for watching and listening to K-State Online. Head over to On3 to get continuing coverage of everything K-State football and the transfer portal.